Hey everyone, welcome back to L Space. My name is Tristan, and today I was tagged by Gavin over at Genre Books to do the How Do You Rate Books book tag, which was originally created by Emily at Novell Novels. So there are 9 prompts, and we'll just answer them starting from 1 until 9. So the first one is, how often do you DNF, and what makes you DNF? Well, I don't DNF intentionally very often because if you remember from Spirited Away, there's that scene where Kamachi, the Boiler Man, when Chihiro is carrying that lump of coal and she tries to set it down, and Kamachi's just like, finish what you started, human. And that, I think, is just burned into my brain permanently because I have a hard time not finishing what I start, and so for that reason, I make a very concerted effort to finish my books. Um, if I do DNF a book, it's usually because A, something has caught my interest and I move on to something else, or B, it's genuinely a book that I am having a hard time connecting with, that's actively making me angry or upset, or just I'm really not liking the book. Um, and those are kind of the only times that I would not finish a book, or if I'm listening to it on audiobook through the Libby app and the book just gets returned to the library, that would be the only other time. Um, I don't DNF books very often, just in general. I think in the last 2 years, I've maybe DNF'd 3, maybe 4 books. I think probably about 4. That's about it as far as what I've DNF'd. So it doesn't happen very often. Okay, so we have Wally with us. Hello. Um, do I rate books 1 star? Very rarely. I think I've rated maybe 2 books 1 star, and between the two of them, the worst of those was definitely Call Me by Your Name by Andre Asaman. So I don't actually really rate books 1 star. I more just say, are they Call Me by Your Name? And if so, that means they suck, and I hate them. Okay, so what is a 2 star book to me? A 2 star book is one that I don't think has very good craft, and it's also one that has a pretty unengaging story, one that's just not interesting and one that I'm not connecting with. A lot of times those books will have things with very overt and blatant misogyny, homophobia, racism, things like that, that you can tell are reflective of the author's opinions as well, and it's just them being didactic and putting their opinions into the text. And that those tend to have to be books that are written within the last like 20 years, because classics, you're gonna run into that but regardless. So I kind of give them a little bit more of a pass because you expect it with books that are older than 40 years old. Um, and so those are the ones that I tend to rate 2 stars, ones that have glaring problems with their craft and the content within the books. And is a 3 star book a good book for me? So going by the Goodreads criteria, I definitely rank these as ones that I like. A 3 star book is, I mean, sort of. A 3 star book is a book that I would say that I like, but one that I liked the book, but I did not enjoy it. You know what I mean? So it's a book that I can recognize has some really. It's a book that I can recognize having a fair amount of craft put into it. It's one that has that has a lot of thought put into its content and its overall writing, but one that does not connect with me. One that is not, it's not like a perfect. Well, it's not even a perfect book, but it's a good book. It's just one that I didn't necessarily like. So, what does a 4 star rating mean to me? That's kind of an interesting question because that's actually probably my most common rating that I give on Goodreads, because I'm relatively easy to please. I'm not somebody that believes that in order to be a successful critic or to successfully, you know, enjoy books, you have to be super critical about them. I can appreciate craft whether or not I like a book, and if a book is moderately engaging, if it's something that keeps me entertained, has at least two characters that I'm enjoying, and has a satisfying beginning, middle, and end, is a book that I'll rate as very good, or 4 stars according to Goodreads. And do I ever give half-star ratings? Well, I would if I could. I think that I'm just a little bit too entrenched with Goodreads to move over to Storygraph, which does use half ratings. I do think that having more of gray area between the things is definitely useful. And again, I don't really like rating things as the star things. It's more my impressions of, did I like it, how much did I like it, etc. Those are kind of more the criteria that I use to evaluate books when I read them. So, do I use half stars? More or less, it's subjective, so of course there's no finite number that you can put on your subjective experience. Okay, what's next? So, do you rate books 5 stars often? What do 5-star books do to make them rate that high? Good question. Again, I think these ones are books that have really advanced literary value, high attention to craft, and generally more on the poetic prose, books that, and it depends on genre too. So fantasy will have a different 5-star criteria for me than a like literary fiction one. Both of them, I've given 5 stars to things in both of those sides, but I can give you some examples of what I've rated 5 stars to give you kind of maybe a measure for books that would fall under that category. So I would say that the very tippy top of my list is Still Life by Sarah Winman. She is eating my fingers. Do you need to do that? I don't think so. You're being very nice. Let's keep being nice, please. Okay, so Still Life by Sarah Winman is definitely my favorite book ever. That is an easy 5 stars that I've rated multiple times. And I've read it multiple times, and it's been great each time. Another one would be Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I think that's definitely a 5-star book for me as far as, and those would be historical fiction and literary fiction, respectively. What else? In the fantasy realm, I would say, well, a lot of the Terry Pratchett books would fall under the 5-star books for me. So, not all of them. Terry Pratchett is my favorite author, but I'm not that biased. I have rated one of his books a 3 stars because I thought it was just okay. So, people always wonder where these scratches come from, and I think that we have proof now that it's your fault. Yes, it's your fault. Because you like violence. You wake up in the morning and immediately choose violence. That's not even an exaggeration. Okay, so of Terry Pratchett's books, the Tiffany Aching books almost exclusively always get 5 stars for me. So The Hatful of Sky especially is a fantastic book, and I love that one so much. It's also within the regular, in some of the other, because that's more like a young adult sub-series that he's got. I also really like the Fifth Elephant by Terry Pratchett. That's the 5th book in the City Watch series, and that one's an easy 5 stars for me. That is such a spectacular book. It has really everything that you like from Terry Pratchett. It has some laugh out loud moments. It has really interesting political commentary and social commentary. It has inversion of monster tropes, and it has a breathtaking prose that just blows me away. There's a scene toward the end. It's a coronation style scene that just every time I think about it, it gives me chills because I can remember so well the the verbiage that he uses to describe the whole scene, and just it's so vivid and magical, and it just it has sat with me for so long that I can't, it just is, it's so good. It's so I think that maybe what we're getting at is that a 5-star book has to have something that leaves a very lasting impression. So a 3-star book would be something that's pretty forgettable. A 4-star book is one that I would say, oh yeah, that was good. I had an enjoyable experience reading that one, and I would read it again. And a 5-star book is I could never tire of reading these books, and that's for sure. The exemplified by the ones that I have shared there. Another 5-star book. This is this one. I've got this one here, so I'm using the front camera on my phone, so it's going to be inverted, but this is Just by Looking at Him by Ryan O'Connell, and this book, I'll talk about this another time, but oh my god, it's so good. Fantastic book. Fix that later. Okay, what's next? So do I rate books 5 stars very often? No, not very often. I probably rate them. I rate 5-star books. I rate books 5 stars more often than I do 3 stars, and certainly more often than 1 star. I tend to like more books than I dislike. So what's next? Has your rating of books changed over the years? Yes, I think that I have become less critical. There are books that I've read previously that I rated 4 stars, such as Still Life, that when I went back and reread them, I'm like, why was I so critical of this? This was not worthy of me being just arbitrarily critical. It deserved my admiration, and so I bumped it up to the 5-star point. And then, of course, I think there are, as I've matured as a reader, because I've read a lot of books over the last 3 years now, as I've matured as a reader, my tastes have refined. So some of those things that I would say don't vibe with me. You're playing with your tail. So some of those things that I would say I have less patience for things that piss me off. So maybe a good example of this is Norwegian Wood by Murakami. That book, I want to say I probably rated that 5 stars when I was starting out, but I was trying to be more objective with that when in reality I should have been looking more on the subjective side. And that book has really blatant and annoying misogyny, sexism, and also homophobia. There's a few homophobic tropes that are used in that book that really bothered me when I read them. So Hannah Gadsby has a good way of putting it when she talks about men painting nudes of women, and I think Murakami does the same thing with his female characters. They are just flesh vases for their dick flowers, and that's really all you can say about that. So if I were to read Norwegian Wood again, which I might try at some point, we'll see, because there were some interesting things in there, I would probably rate that either a 2 or a 3. It's not as bad as Call Me by Your Name by any stretch of the imagination, but it's certainly not worthy of the 4 stars that I gave it when I did. Okay. And where do you record your ratings of your books? Well, generally it's just on Goodreads, but Goodreads I use more as a way of tracking my reading. As I get more involved with here on BookTube, I will probably be a little more intentional with how I rate books. And I may come up with like a more fleshed out rating system of my own creation that I use for my books that, works for me. Because I think we should always do that, is use criteria that our own criteria, because what's going to work better for yourself than something you create, right? Um, except for medications. You should always get a prescription if you need one. You should never ever create your own medicines. Anyway, you are a terror. It's because it's almost dinner time. She is restless because it's almost dinner time. Okay. So yeah, for the moment it's just Goodreads, but as I transition to more putting my thoughts and things on BookTube, I will probably put more of my ratings here for y'all to see. All right, well, thank you, Gavin, for tagging me in this. This is a video that I've thought about making for a while, but more just like, again, kind of with that fleshed out rating system that I came up with, but that'll come another time. But anyway, yeah, so that is the video. I will see you next time, and until then, have a wonderful day, and thank you again for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Thanks. Bye.